What if the rarest car in American history was never supposed to exist, and the only man who knew the truth took that secret to his grave? In the back corner of a cluttered garage, beneath a dusty tarp, a discovery was made so rare, so impossible, even the company that built it refuses to acknowledge it. No photos, no records, just silence. But the real story isn't the car. It's the man who kept it hidden, and the quiet, deliberate life he led to protect it. Was it a forgotten prototype, a hoax, or something far more personal? What he left behind has sparked a mystery no one can solve. And the closer you look, the more the lines blur between myth and reality. Look at that dusty door, frozen in time. Frank Fritz wasn't just a collector. His garage was a vault of hidden history. But when he passed away on September 30th, 2024, something unimaginable was waiting inside. Investigators and estate attorneys stepped in, expecting vintage treasures. Instead, they stumbled on a car that official logs claim never existed. Why would Frank leave a handwritten message hinting this find would outlive all of us? The moment they cracked that door, the world shifted. Frank's fascination with the forgotten wasn't casual. His time on American Pickers made him the road warrior of relics. But even that didn't prepare anyone for his private mission. He wasn't chasing fame. From the very first moment on screen, you could see it. Not in flashy headlines or showbiz glitz, but in his voice when he found a muscle car half buried in weeds, or the way he lingered in some dusty Iowa barn. He wasn't buying cars, he was rescuing stories. That shift in tone? You could feel it every time a classic rumble broke the silence of neglect. He kept his most precious finds out of the public eye, hidden behind locked doors, tinkering alone, surrounded by grease and quiet wonder. Over the years, privately and deliberately, he built a collection that looked like a museum of American automotive soul. A sleek 1956 Chevrolet Bel Air, classic 1967 Ford Fairlane GT 390 restored brick by brick, and a fully optioned 1960 Cadillac Fleetwood, co-owned with Mike Wolfe. He paid six figures for two 1954 Nash Healey sports cars, and that 1914 Mertz cycle car with its otherworldly three wheels. Then came his crown jewel, the 1947 Cisitalia Nuvolari Spider, a post-war Italian marvel valued at over $500,000. Every piece had a backstory Frank could reel off like a poem, describing cross-country hauls, barn finds, late-night online wins, and why each one deserved a second life. You might expect a showman to flaunt that kind of lineup. But Frank wasn't that guy. No velvet ropes, no Instagram hype, just a modest Iowa garage, dripping with authenticity. Friends say he'd disappear inside, sometimes for hours, cataloging parts, or just sitting quietly with his favorites. It was private, sacred even. In a world obsessed with likes and views, Frank trusted the past to speak softly. Yet in those final years, something shifted. As his presence on American Pickers faded around 2020, after back surgery and mounting health issues, his garage doors didn't reopen, neither to fans nor friends. He became increasingly isolated. Fewer calls, fewer visits, no more updates. Even his famed Savannah, Illinois shop slowed to a crawl. An inside source says the place is dead, with no restocking after his passing, and a legal estate dispute blocking memorial plans, including a hoped-for motorcycle ride in his honor. The isolation wasn't voluntary. It was shaped by a stroke in July 2022 that left him partially paralyzed, compounded by back surgery, Crohn's disease, pneumonia, and seizures. Yet Frank didn't stop collecting. He dispatched intermediaries, bought unseen, collecting as if each vehicle filled a missing piece of some secret puzzle. One of his last installments wasn't chrome or polarizing, it was unassuming. Faded paint, odd shape, no clear markings. He told a neighbor only, "It's older than you think," then locked it behind the garage door a year before his death. Why did he do this? What was he really hunting? Rumors began to swirl. Whispered stories of a private dossier listing legendary prototypes, ghost racing machines lost to time, even a retired GM insider with untouched factory models from the 60s. No proof, yet. But there were Frank's own final words to two old friends. "There's something in that garage that'll outlive all of us." And even more haunting, if they ever open that garage without me, tell them I left everything behind. No one then realized how literal that would become. When the end finally came, it was whispered, not announced. No fanfare, no red carpet, just a man gone quietly, doing what he loved, surrounded by relics only he truly understood. Estate courts sealed his property as probate launched, and those heavy metal doors stayed shut. Until the day they didn't. That morning, there was no ceremony, just an eerie hush. Police stood on a gravel driveway, hands on belts, trading unspoken looks. The estate attorney twisted a key in silence. Inside waited a trove of secrets, dust gathering around dormant engines. If Frank's collection was an archive, whoever stepped in that room would feel it. What they expected and what they found are worlds apart. When the garage door groaned open, the cars fell into shadow like they were holding their breath. The official logs listed familiar names, but one machine changed the narrative. Not just because it shouldn't exist, but because it rewrote what we thought we knew about Frank's mission. His final act wasn't about money, fame, or vintage allure. It was about guardianship. He hid more than metal. He hid evidence of a purpose only he could decipher. He was chasing the impossible, and he caught it. And now, it's waiting, silent and monumental, inside that Iowa sanctuary. The steel shell of that garage looked ordinary from the street. A rusted frame with ivy creeping along the edges, a side door dented and silent for years. But when that main door creaked upward, inch by inch, dust poured out like a forgotten confession. And so did the weight of Frank's hidden legacy. 8 cars stood silently in tight ranks, some draped in tarps, others exposed but worn by time. That turquoise 1956 Bel Air sat near the front, its body faded but defiant. Beyond it, his prized 1967 Fairlane GT 390, the chrome-laden Cadillac Fleetwood tucked in the back, every car a testament to Frank's quiet devotion. But nothing prepared them for what waited at the rear, a vehicle no one could place. Covered with a grimy oil-stained tarp, its shape was unconventional, low-slung, wildly curved, reeking of a prototype. An officer approached, peeled back the tarp, and the room changed. The car underneath looked like a Corvette, but not any model anyone recognized. Its lines were sharper, more aggressive than a Stingray. The front sat lower, the rear flared wider, and there was no VIN where it should be. Instead, a small brass plate remained, riveted to the firewall, etched with cryptic numbers that didn't match a single GM record. Whispers circulated. The attorney scribbled in his notepad. No one touched it. Everyone stared. A familiar shape masquerading as something impossible. What was this? On the distant garage wall, stained and dim, hung a yellowed scrap of paper taped above the workbench. The ink had bled, but the message remained clear. I left behind everything there. Frank. It felt deliberate, like a puzzle piece scattered in plain sight. As curiosity spiraled, a local mechanic, brought in to inspect, said the car resembled a 1963 Grand Sport Corvette. But something was off. Only 5 of those rare machines were ever built, all accounted for. Yet this one sat here, hidden under tarps, untouched by public eyes. Questions rippled through the group. How did Frank get it? Where did this ghostly Corvette come from? And why hadn't he ever shown it? Frank's private vault had just delivered its first enigma. But it wasn't the last. This wasn't merely about a long-lost gem. It was a dare, a riddle thrust to the world. Experts, skeptics, collectors, they all circled with bated breath. When that hidden Corvette emerged, nothing else in the garage felt familiar. Sure, fans had documented Frank's 1956 Bel Air, the GT 390, the twin 1954 Nash Healeys, and the Italian-crafted Cisitalia Spider. They'd seen photos, heard tales, even watched restorations. But this? It looked like a dark sibling of the Grand Sport. Fiberglass skin, exaggerated fenders, no factory identification. Its chassis whispered race car, but its parts spoke of secrecy. A mysterious brass plate read, experimental use only. Across niche collector forums and Corvette history boards, wildfire spread. GM paused. Silence thimbled through the archives. Hot takes poured in. Maybe this was the legendary Lost Mule from the Grand Sport test program, a vehicle unspoken, unrecorded, yet rumored among insiders. Or perhaps it was even more elusive. A one-off body secretly molded in GM's skunk works, hidden from everyone, including Chevrolet itself. Every theory carried weight. Every theory heightened the mystery. What could explain a machine that officially never existed? One thing was clear. Frank Fritz had known exactly what he possessed. He never registered it, never titled it, never offered a clue. He hid it in the farthest, darkest corner of his sanctuary, not as a trophy, but as a legacy. And now, after his passing, it was being revealed to the world. As news of the find rippled outward, historians and Corvette experts began combing through GM's old development records. They scoured engineering drawings, took endless high-resolution photos of the car, examined welds, panel fitments, tool marks. But what they uncovered only fueled more speculation. If this was real, it could rewrite moments of Corvette lore. If not, the craftsmanship still raised questions. This wasn't a garage-built replica. Every curve, every weld told of professional hands, someone who knew what they were doing. And there were rumors. One thread carried rumors that Frank had acquired the shell and parts from a former GM engineer in the early 2000s, someone working on clandestine prototype projects. Forums debated. Private messages buzzed. A photo was posted on a Corvette enthusiast page. Collector blogs lit up. The story broke free of collector circles and entered mainstream auto news. Even casual readers paused at headlines. Car that shouldn't exist, found in Picker Star's garage. And all the while, GM said nothing. By now, the value wasn't just measured in dollars. It was measured in questions. Who built it? How did it slip through the cracks? Why did Frank keep it hidden? And perhaps the most chilling question: did he mean for anyone to find it at all? Frank's last act wasn't to hoard a relic. It was to leave a challenge. And in that dusty garage, he placed the key. He left behind everything. Everything that could crack open a secret buried deep in American automotive history. The tension in that room was thick enough to cut through steel. It wasn't just a car. They were staring into a doorway of untold stories. And the world was waiting for Frank's final trace to be unveiled. The more I dig into this story, the more it feels like Frank scripted his own legend. and the final twist he left behind speaks louder than any confession. Some say he bought the Corvette through a quiet estate auction in Flint, Michigan, just outside GM's old stamping plant. Others claim he cut a deal with a former GM engineer back in the early 2000s. None of it can be proven, but each whisper fits Frank's signature. The obscure, the overlooked, the quietly extraordinary. Frank never sought applause. His garage wasn't a curated exhibit, it was his sanctuary, and that's exactly why this car stayed hidden. But the silence that followed discovery unsettled everyone. GM, when asked about the car, offered nothing but polite denials. No records, they said. That drained the room of certainty. This story isn't just about a rare car. It's about a man who understood the power of mystery, who respected discovery as more than a transaction. It was a revelation. Frank didn't chase headlines, he chased meaning. In death, he left more than vintage metal. He left a challenge, a question, a testament to the silent beauty found in neglected things. And that Corvette, whether it's a missing Grand Sport prototype or a masterful one-off, carries more of his essence than any spotlighted artifact ever could. In the final stretch of his life, Frank's wealth wasn't tied to market value, it was measured in the stories he protected. His lifestyle was modest. A private jet never roamed his skies, but he owned a handful of classic muscle cars, those Bel Airs and Fairlanes, parked alongside his heart's treasure. He wore everyday watches, nothing flashy, and his real estate was a humble home in Iowa, not a mansion. His true investments were in forgotten chassis and fiberglass legends, stored in dust and silence, insured quietly through standard hobbyist policies, not elite underwriters. His business moves were subtle, middlemen sent to auctions, discreet acquisitions, deals done off the record. There were no flashy brand deals, no red carpet collaborations, just calculated choices that reflect a collector driven by passion, not profit. The lesson there? True value isn't always obvious, and sometimes the richest legacies are buried beneath layers of mystery and intent. Attention, precision, and purpose mattered far more to him than public admiration or financial reward. We've come full circle, from that dusty garage in Iowa to debates swirling in auction houses and chat rooms worldwide. Frank Fritz may have left behind a vault of rare machines, but his most enduring creation is the legend he built around them. As the final door closed and the walls fell silent, his last gift wasn't the object itself. It was the secret he dared us to uncover. Frank's wealth wasn't measured by auction records. It was counted in the tales he safeguarded. He never flew private, never flaunted flash. Yet, in the wake of his passing on September 30th, 2024, at age 60 in Davenport, Iowa, the real treasure surfaced, not in dollar signs, but in memory and myth. The stroke he suffered in July 2022 had confined him, but even that became part of the legend. A man who refused invisibility, compelling friends to rally, legal papers to file, and fans to debate every last Corvette detail. It's compelling to think, what if every barn, every frame of dusty fiberglass held a clue he never told? Did that Corvette hold lineage back to a lost prototype? He never chased attention on red carpets. He turned barnwood and taillights into folklore. Toward the final reel, he didn't yank bright lights onto himself. Instead, he left behind shadows for us to illuminate. The contrast between who he was at the end and who he became in public view is stark. That modest couch-surfing fire inspector from Iowa, who collected razor blades and beer cans, became a global curiosity driver on a hit show. But he left fame on his terms in 2021, stepping away amid surgery and health battles. The ensuing silence wasn't retreat. It was recalibration. His humility never left him. No grand home, no oversized watch, just dusty garages and quiet passion. Then there's the celebrity analysis, because Frank became something of a cult figure. He never had a fleet of luxury cars. He had muscle cars that ended in smoke and growl, parked beside that legendary Corvette he rescued. His watch? A basic timepiece, functional and unflashy. His home? A modest property in Iowa, insured through standard hobbyist coverage. Not a mansion, no gold-lined vault, no private jet, no celebrity endorsements, just quiet business. Middlemen at auctions, off-record agreements, no red carpet theatrics. And yet, this life taught a profound financial lesson. True value isn't found in logos or tax returns. It's in vision, in patience, in the stories we choose to tell. Compare his early career, a firefighter turned shop owner who stumbled onto public attention, with his final reality, a legend whose estate now fuels court battles, whose estate sale headlines echo auctions worldwide. He went from rummaging through junk piles to leaving a legacy lawyers now fight over. That arc alone is a study in transformation, how personal passion morphs into public intrigue. So here's the closing curiosity. Will history ever confirm the car's origins? Will GM acknowledge it? Or will it remain a beautiful phantom forever? Frank's voice might be gone, but through that brass tag and unanswered questions, he's still speaking. And as long as we're willing to listen, the mystery isn't over. It's just beginning. Frank Fritz didn't just collect objects. He collected mysteries. And sometimes, the most valuable thing isn't what's found, but what's never explained. In the end, his final discovery wasn't just about a forgotten car. It was a mirror into a life lived off.